Very nice, Sumit. I don't think you'll need that accounting degree. Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou nā manuhiri. No mai, higher mai ki tēnei wharekar kia a te ato. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome to this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for what, 119. 119 years. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being is accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals, which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We also welcome you today if you are here for the first time. You've come on a special day in the life of this congregation. This is the Sunday we welcome those who have chosen to become members of the congregation, adding their individual gifts, energy, and commitment to our common life, dedicated to promoting our Unitarian values in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We hope you'll find the experience enriching. Just so you know, let me explain that the service doesn't really end until after you've shared a cuppa with us at morning tea. It is our sacrament of hospitality. Please join us. It won't be complete without you. For my opening words, I want to read you a poem by Philip Appleman, who really gets us as Unitarians. I don't know if he is one, but he should be. The poem is called O Karma, Dharma, Puddin' and Pie. O Karma, Dharma, Puddin' and Pie, give me a break before I die. Grant me wisdom, will, and wit, purity, probity, pluck, and grit. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, kind. Give me great abs and a steel-trap mind. And forgive, ye gods, some humble advice. These little blessings would suffice to beget an earthly paradise. Make the bad people good, and the good people nice. And before our world goes over the brink, teach the believers how to think. As we light the chalice and fully embrace the sacred space created here this morning, please hold in your hearts the Unitarian principle, which calls upon us to respect the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are to depart. Today we remember those who share this earth with us no longer, and bear witness to their lives and the roles they have played in ours. We pay homage to and make stronger that web which connects us all. Today we welcome Tess and John and Gerard as our newest members. We are delighted, but it is only fair to warn you that challenges lie ahead for all those who signed the membership book. One of the biggest is explaining what the heck a Unitarian Universalist is. When I tell someone I'm a Unitarian Universalist, I'm inevitably met with one of three remarkably consistent responses. They are, cool, sometimes followed by, me too, which is the rarest response, especially in New Zealand. Next is, oh, or a silent manifestation, a slight head nod, which usually means the person has not any idea what that is and doesn't care or want to ask. And then there's the most common, what's that? What's that comes in a few varieties. Sometimes it's just a plain, what's that? Other times, people follow what's that with, is it like Scientology? Or, so you are a Moonie, a member of the Unification Church. Now, I could and have attempted to respond to what's that with a brief history lesson tracing the roots of our tradition to theologies dating back to the early decades of the Christian Church, debated and fine-tuned in the centuries following the Protestant Reformation, and formalized as distinct denominations, the Universalists and the Unitarians in the US in the late 18th and early 19th century, until the merger in 1961 formed the Unitarian Universalist Association. Well, this is all well and fine. I mean, I like history. And so does Jonathan. And so do at least a couple others of you. But as hard as it is to believe, not everyone does. So besides the history answer to what's that, boring people, it doesn't really answer the question behind the question. What's that? In my experience, really means, what do you believe? We are, after all, talking about a religion. And for most people, religion equals belief. And indeed, most religions are defined by and organized around a common belief, often formalized and stated as a creed. Unitarian Universalism, however, is not. Even our 7 principles do not constitute, as is commonly thought, a creed or statement of belief. Rather, they are aspirational statements which form the basis of our association's covenant, a solemn promise we make to one another about how we will be together and in the world as we pursue paths of spiritual depth and growth. When it comes to defining Unitarian Universalism, the question is not one of belief, but of relationship. This is why it is hard for someone to be a Unitarian Universalist who doesn't come to church, doesn't remain connected, or participate in some way in the life of the community, at the bare minimum, coming to morning tea. Unitarian belief alone does not a Unitarian make. It's like learning to dance. You won't get too far without a dance partner to practice, learn, and grow with. Indeed, one can hear this realization behind the words of a woman named Jane Roper in an article she wrote entitled, "Why I Finally Joined a Church." Revealing early in the article that she has just joined a Unitarian Universalist church, Roper writes of what she wants for her children. "I want them to see a group of people can work together, give of their time and talents, and support each other through life's joys and sorrows, not because they're family or even necessarily friends, but because they believe that it's an important part of being human. I also want to expose them to good old-fashioned community in a world where increasingly community happens only in virtual spaces." She continues, "I'm a huge fan of blogs, Facebook, and Twitter, but I don't think there will ever be a substitute for sharing the same physical space with a group of people, having conversations, making music together, offering each other a handshake or a smile or a word of sympathy. Roper lifts up some of the best of what church has historically offered people and what is often hard to find in our own day. The very qualities, experiences, and relationships that most inspire people to join and then support their church through attendance, volunteering, skill sharing, and monetary giving, all of which are vital for a church to thrive and part of what it means to be a church member in most churches, including here. She essentially reminds us that the holy, no matter how we individually define it, is made manifest in relationships. Many a Sunday that has been in my experience of church, on those Sundays, I leave feeling so uplifted, so connected to the source of life that anything seems possible. And the weight of all my worries, great and small, silly and serious, are somehow lighter. But not every Sunday leaves me spiritually high. If this is all we hope for or expect out of church, at some point, we're going to be let down. It turns out church is both a wonderfully and woefully human institution. Sometimes it takes a while to notice this. As Philip Appleman reminds us in his humorous poem, O Karma, Dharma, Puddin' and Pie, our humanity is a complex mix of desires, beliefs, ego, and aspirations. Therefore, it is wise for us to maintain a healthy sense of humor about ourselves and to remember that when we enter the church, we don't check our humanity at the door. And that's okay. As Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams noted, church is a place where you get to practice what it means to be human. Even the loftiest of ideals and noblest of efforts cannot shield us from the fact that sometimes people and the things we do and say and get on our, some of the things that they do and say get on our nerves. Stick around long enough and buttons will be pushed. Personalities will clash. People will say or do things that offend us or that we don't agree with. And it is in these moments, far more than the good times, that your commitment to your spiritual growth, the practice of what it means to be human, which really lies at the heart of church membership, will be most tested. In The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky wrote, "In my dreams, I often make plans for the service of humanity, and perhaps I might actually face crucifixion if it were suddenly necessary. Yet, I am incapable of living in the same room with anyone for 2 days together. In 24 hours, I begin to hate the best of men. One because he's too long over his dinner, another because he has a cold and keeps on blowing his nose. But it has always happened that the more I hate men individually, the more I love humanity." Dostoevsky moved to a deep recognition of the human condition through his own difficult relationships, is moved towards a greater compassion for humankind. The challenge for any one of us, whether we're a new or longtime member, friend, first-time visitor, or frequent visitor, or even the minister, is to remember and seek this transformative presence in our midst when church isn't everything we'd like or hope it to be. All of you here today have, or will have if you continue to attend, experiences both rewarding and disappointing. Sometimes the sermon will inspire you, I hope most times. Other times it will bore you or even make you mad. Sometimes you'll like the music, sometimes you won't. Not everyone, including you, will be at their best every time you're here. People will sometimes exchange hard words or be preoccupied with other things. But there will be many times people will be kind, generous, and attentive too. You see, there are damn few saints among us, but most of us are saints in training. Human beings in relationship, discovering and practicing what it means to be human, dancing a dance, often with two left feet. That means there will be sore toes from being stepped on along the way. But even so, Gerard, Tess, and John, may we have this dance. Now it's time to welcome our new members. So I'd like to invite Shireen forward. And Gerard and Tess and John. Where'd Gerard go? There he is. Oh, I didn't recognize you in a tie. Well, welcome. Shireen sent you a question. You may not have gotten it, but I suspect you could improvise. What has brought you to wanting to be a member? Ladies first.
Sure. I kind of knew this was coming. I'm not sure, because I remember last year. So yeah, it's been almost, not quite 18 months ago when I showed up for the first time with my girls. John was in London that week, and I think most of you know I was raised as a Mormon, and I had stopped attending that church and hadn't been attending any church, and we'd gone to a few churches here, and I was really looking for a progressive church that shared my values. And so I showed up on this Sunday, and I have my two kids with me, and we're running late, of course, because it's just me with the two kids. And Sally was doing one of her dances. She was leading the service, and they were doing the dances of Universal Peace, which is fine, and I really love that, but it was a little intimidating walking in at the back, and all the chairs are in a circle, and I'm late, and I believe it was Jonathan, just looked at me and patted the chair next to him. And it was all the way across the room, but he just smiled, and he's like, "It is fine, come on." And I felt truly welcomed. So for me, joining this church is to join a like-minded community, to build those relationships with people who we may not always agree on the details, but we do agree that on our principles, and that love is the important thing.
Thank you. Okay. You going to arm wrestle, or you want to?
Flip a coin, what are we doing here?
Gerard,
I guess I'll go.
can you stand over by the mic, John?
I suppose I can do that.
Thanks.
In some ways, what brought me here was simply just tagging along. Let's be honest. I've had, some of you have heard my personal history with churches, and there have been times when I've been very active, and then I've walked away and stayed away, and then I've been very active, and I've walked away and stayed away. So this was sort of the time for that cycle again, and Tess had found this community, and I came along and also felt very welcome here. And a couple of things that Clay said today play into that he mentioned about that belief in itself doesn't make a church. But one of the things I realized is that no matter how hard you try, if you do not fully believe in what the church is telling you to believe, you can't ever really be a member. And I spent 10 years as a member of the LDS Church just biting my tongue constantly because, no, that's wrong. No, you can't possibly believe that. And then I realized coming here that, as you said, it's not about belief, it's about shared values and community. And that is what's important. And so I'm very glad to be here.
Your turn, Gerard.
Right. Well, this truly is ad lib because I didn't know I was going to speak about anything here. I have been to many churches. I've snooped on churches. I've been here many times. I used to sit over there and snoop and observe what goes on in here. And sometimes I was horrified. And not really horrified. I was just surprised at what a man stood in the middle here one day and said, look, if God's, what did he say? If God's real, then he's a loser. Well, my hair stood on end when he said that. I thought, what? If God's real, he's a loser. I thought that was rather novel. Anyway, if you sign up at the Happy Science Church, that's the people who believe in Yoko Kawa as their God. When you go along there, you have to state an oath, and you state that Yoko Kawa is Jesus Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Alcantara, everything rolled into one, and you observe people standing on and saying this. They're signing up for Happy Science. They're saying they believe all this, and I stand there as a spectator watching this, and I think, how can they possibly believe that Yoko Kawa is their God when Yoko Kawa is a 64-year-old Japanese failed businessman in a Japanese suit with a 23-year-old girlfriend and a big Rolex watch? You think, well, how can this man be God? And yet people do sign up and become Happy Science followers. I'm Roman Catholic. And the last time I went to the cathedral, I watched some people sign up to be Roman Catholic. They stand on a book as well. And they have to say that they believe in the virgin birth. Well, I'm sitting there thinking I'm Roman Catholic, and if I had to reset my test, I'd fail. Because if he walks like a duck and talks like a duck, then chances are he had a mum and dad who were ducks as well. So I think I joined this church because I believe in intellectual freedom, and you want to be able to think as an individual. I also went to church one day, and a man had an interesting pendant around his neck, and I said to him, "That's an interesting pendant you have around your neck. Where did you get that from?" And I thought he'd say he said, "I'm a lecturer." And he said, "One of my students gave it to me." And I thought he'd teach in the arts, and they said, "No, he taught theology." And I said, did you teach them very much?" He said, "No, probably not." And he said, "Beware of the man who knows absolutely everything, because you'll become intensely jealous of the person who knows absolutely nothing, but gets there anyway." So where does that leave me? I don't know. It's very hard to know, isn't it? I want to have some intellectual discussion. I want to understand things intellectually before I can believe in something. I want intellectual freedom, but I'm aware that some people have no such intellect at all, but get there anyway, don't they?
Thank you, Gerard. I don't suppose you brought up your order of service. No. Well, as part of our ritual, we ask you to the three of you to start us off with the recitation in unison. Don't wait for somebody. Pretend like you're the only one up here.
We enter this faith with hope and possibility in our hearts, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this church. We covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this church and guides us. We seek your welcome as we join you in this faith.
The congregation will please stand and respond. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves, and we seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas, and your vision. At a time when it's easy and at times when it's difficult. We seek to be supportive. Not only when you reach out and encourage to us, but also when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals. And when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our spiritual journey. Okay. For my closing words, may the warmth of this community and the memory of our chalice flame sustain our hearts and encourage our minds as we engage the blessings of life's challenges and joys. The service has ended. Your service has begun. Go in peace. Go in joy. Go in love.